Hello and welcome to the first edition of the ChainBoost Review. My name is Ryan. I am your host today, and I'm excited to be here. We have a very, very interesting and very intriguing new series that we are running on the ChainBoost social platforms, Medium, and YouTube as well. Essentially, what we are doing is we are going in and we are looking at a lot of the past projects that have launched on the ChainBoost Launchpad. So with that comes in-depth articles, interviews like you see here today, as well as potential future live events as well that kind of go over all of the developments of ChainBoost launches from IDO up until this point that we're at here today. The first project that we have featured, I'm very excited for, we are featuring Unique.vc, or otherwise known as the UNQ token. And today we have Alex, one of the co-founders from Unique.vc. Alex, thank you for being here today, man. Really appreciate your time. How are you doing today?
Hi, Ryan. Thank you for having me, first of all. And yeah, doing good, working as usual. So all good.
Working as usual. Perfect. Yeah, I'm excited to be here, man. The last time that I actually got the chance to talk to you, I think was right around the lead up to the IDO. So it was, right in, what was it, December of 2021. I know that we did an event with your team, I think with you specifically sometime last year. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to be there. So I'm excited to get the chance to catch up with you for the first time in, about 18 months here today. So before we dive too deep into, all the questions that we have, scheduled for today, if you don't mind, go ahead and, introduce yourself to the community. Who are you? What your role is with Unique.vc, a little bit about the project, and, kind of a fun question for the audience, if you feel comfortable answering it. What was the first crypto that you ever bought? It's kind of today's question of the day.
Yeah. My role in Unique.vc is mostly on the product side. So although officially I'm also a CEO, but I'm definitely taking most care of the product in the team. I've been in crypto since 2016, so it's already like what, 6-7 years, something like that. And before that, I've spent around 10 years in game development. So that's my major background from this perspective. So Unique.vc itself is a platform for different kinds of investment vehicles, let's say, right? So it's been a pretty different idea in the beginning, but now that's what we're mostly focused on. So different types of investment communities, investment organizations, ranging from angel investors to syndicates and venture capital funds. So we are trying to provide them with best platform possible to manage their day-to-day operations, their back office, and things like that, right? So all of the products, let's say, and all of the features on the platform are created to support this idea and this vision. And now we have some very interesting clients, and I guess we'll touch base on that later on in the interview. And yeah, that's super exciting for me. When it comes to the first crypto, I'm not really sure even, because that was pretty long ago. I probably bought some Bitcoin, obviously, but also I've been working with some crypto startups back in 2016. And basically, in order to get myself familiarized with the crypto itself, that was the first, let's say, experiment for me, where I was really trying to understand how this thing actually works, what are the barriers and obstacles in getting to crypto. Because before that, it was like completely wild west. I remember I was trying to buy some Bitcoin maybe in 2013, 14, something like that. And it was really, I don't know how people were doing that. Honestly, it's been so hard with so many, like, I don't know, hoops and loops. And yeah, that was a terrible experience.
Yeah, definitely the rise of, more centralized exchanges, more decentralized exchanges, that definitely helps, increase the accessibility. Because, like you said, 10 years ago, you hear about some exciting, new token, you hear about, Bitcoin or XRP or Ether as kind of like the initial couple. But, there's always that question, like, how do I actually, own this asset? Like, how do I actually go out and get it? So, kind of happy to see, just how far we've come in 10 years, how much more, increased visibility, increased access that we have just, compared to, when you got started in the industry. So that's, really cool to hear. Bitcoin was your first. I'm not ashamed to say, I think Doge was my first, buying Doge on Robinhood. It's amazing how things progress, as you get deeper and deeper into things.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we are not definitely there yet in terms of like, actually being accessible and actually having a good user experience and all of that. But the progress we made in 10 years is amazing, right? Because yeah, back in 2014, 15, whatever, you could find some decent exchanges, let's say, but then it was exactly the question, okay, I can trade, I don't know, Bitcoin here, but where do I get the Bitcoin to start with, right? And that's been absolutely a headache.
Yeah, exactly. Like you said, we're not quite there yet, but obviously some very, very drastic improvements have been made since, that early period, 2013, 2014. So really, really cool to see. But speaking of improvements, speaking about progressing, kind of segue into my first question. When we had our initial interview back in December 2021, I remember I was talking with you and I was talking with MK, your co-founder. And back then, Unique.vc was UNQ Club. It was, a little bit of a different brand, a little bit of a different product. If you don't mind, just kind of filling in the audience, what kind of led to the rebrand from UNQ to Unique.vc? And, was it a difference in product, or was it more, marketing a different brand? Kind of what went into that decision?
Yeah, I mean, the first, I guess, reason to do that was exactly the way you pronounce the name itself, right? So, okay, you're familiar with the product, you're familiar with the platform and with our team, so we did pronounce that as UNQ, right? But for people, when they see it for the first time, it was like, what is it? UNQ. What? How do you even read it out, right?
I think I even said UNC in our first interview.
Yeah. So many wrong ways to do it, and so from the purely like marketing and branding perspective, probably wasn't the best name out there. So we took exactly the idea that we had behind it. So UNQ was because unique, right, in the first place, and clubs. And since we wanted to emphasize a little bit that we are doing this venturing and venture platform, that's why we chose .vc extension. And so it became unique.vc. It's just like, much easier to read. It emphasizes all the same things that we wanted to emphasize in the brand name itself. So yeah, we decided to just like, get rid of this clumsy three-letter whatever a name, and make it a little bit more user-friendly in the end of the day, just like we do with everything else. So it's again a question of UX as well, I guess, overall. Yeah, I think it kind of worked out well. Definitely sometimes we do get mixed up with other venture capital companies, firms, right? So sometimes people believe that we might be investing in something, which is not the case. But on the other hand, it also brings us, some relevant leads for our own platform. So even that confusion actually works for us pretty well. So yeah.
Okay, perfect. And yeah, from what I understand, with the rebrand, like you said, it's for the sake of name recognition and making sure you have, something, kind of like what you said, that's a little bit unique, but also making sure that the branding is very clear on, what your project is. But from what I understand, also some of it was tied to, product market fit. And, with the rebrand came a series of, different products you could potentially launch on the Unique.vc platform, different backend architectures, different governance structures that you can operate within each investment club, as it used to be called. I believe now with the new branding and with the different platform, now instead of clubs, Unique.vc operates with syndicates and VC funds primarily as kind of the investment architectures that you guys produce. Is that correct?
Kind of. I mean, it's still like, about venture clubs, let's say, and that's more, it's an existing idea and existing concept. So we did not, let's say, go too far away from it. It's just we extended the scope of what we are offering through the platform. So initially it was mostly focused on NFTs and NFT communities and NFT collectors, right? So we wanted to give them a way to invest in those NFTs as a group, right? So we, like 4 of us, 5 of us, want to invest a certain amount of money. So we lower our own risks, and on the other hand, somebody from the community, from our small community, right, can basically spearhead our efforts, research, find those NFTs, and basically acquire it on behalf of the entire group. But then we realized that there's not so much difference between that and overall investment, right? So we ended up just offering a number of different venture vehicles, I would say. And some of them, you can still use the platform in a way that it was originally created, right? So you can create the club, which is like for you and the handful of your friends, and you can purchase NFTs together, then sell them together, and redistribute the proceeds. Basically, if those were in profit, good for you. If not, well, that's the market for you. But then also we created other structures thanks to different governance mechanisms and overall scenarios that we have developed. And you can actually invest not just in NFTs, but in, I don't know, tokens or startups early on. You can invest as a venture fund or as a syndicate, or you can just again, go with a small group of your personal friends, for example, right? So I'd say the original idea is still there. So the approach and the vision is still the same. So how do people as a group invest in some asset, right, and manage this investment later on? But we're kind of now mostly emphasizing the more, let's say, traditional structures. So again, syndicates, venture firms, and so on that can now operate on chain, and that's our major focus, right? How do we improve their day-to-day operations, and how do we make it easier using blockchain in the first place, right? To automate their business relations.
Yeah, and you touched on something briefly there when you were kind of talking about the different investment vehicles, as it were. With it, it's all on chain, as you mentioned, right? The entire structure of the VC or the syndicate is on chain, and with that, I believe each one of them has their own kind of unique governance structures behind them, right? The different VC funds and syndicates. How do those governance structures kind of differentiate from each other? So if I wanted to go in with a couple of friends and create a VC fund versus creating a syndicate, how would that governance and that voting structure work within each of those two kind of verticals there?
Yeah. So for example, the main difference in how syndicates operate versus venture funds is that in a syndicate you can have, for example, a group of 70 people, for example. Then people who are usually called syndicate leads or something like that. So people who are actively researching the market can find some opportunities, right? So they have some project they believe it makes sense to invest in. So they bring this project back to their community. They create some, let's say, page for this particular opportunity, and they say, hey, guys, if somebody's interested, here is the opportunity. We have, let's say, allocation of $30,000 that we can invest. And whoever wants from this community, they can join this opportunity and throw money in. Then when they reach the required allocation, they send money to the project, receive back tokens, distribute them, and so on and so on, right? So each individual within the group makes a decision on his own, right? So they still do their own research, for each opportunity, and they decide if they want in or not. While with venture capital fund, it works a little bit differently because usually you have like LPs and GPs in the structure, and then LPs essentially commit some amount of capital from the get-go. They have their capital calls or some other way to actually collect the money, but then the GP makes the decision on his own, right? So he doesn't actually ask LPs on each and every deal, right? So he has a mandate, they have a mandate to invest on behalf of LPs, essentially, right? So the process is pretty different, right? In case of syndicates, it's much more active, much more engaged, and much more community-driven process of investment and of making decision. And again, each individual has to do it on their own. While with VCs, it's more passive, let's say, right? So you come in once, you throw money in, and then you're like, at some point, just call your GP and say, hey, how's it going, right? What's the news and so on. But you don't actually get a say in each particular opportunity. However, sometimes you can come all together and say, hey guys, you are doing it not in the best way possible. We want to discuss that. We want to change your investment strategy or something like that. But again, it's a different business flow, I would say, and different business process.
Okay, so yeah, just to make sure I understand, with VC funds, like you said, it's a little bit more passive, and you might be able to help kind of dictate the direction that the VC fund goes in and the various investment strategies that are deployed. But with a syndicate, much more involved, community driven, and on a very much on a kind of a case by case basis as to kind of the direction it goes. Okay. Now, I guess quick question with that, when it comes to, I guess, syndicate specifically, knowing that it's kind of, case by case, as it were, does everybody have an equal say as far as voting goes? Is it kind of dictated just, by person, or is kind of their voting power essentially dictated by the amount of assets that are being shared within the different syndicate? How exactly does that work?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, because we have been thinking about it that a lot, right? So what kind of governance structure to employ for syndicates? And it turns out that they actually don't want their decision making to be driven by whales, let's say, right? So by people who actually can throw in the most. We usually, for syndicates, offer to use what we call role-based governance, right? So within the syndicate, there might be not a number of different roles, and each role has its own permission, and each role has its own number of votes, right? And that's how they usually govern their syndicate. So they can say, okay, actually, we don't want to ask everybody on each opportunity. We just want to bring the opportunity into our community, into our instance of the platform, and then whoever wants in, they are in, and that's it. We do the investment itself and distribution ourselves, right? As community leaders, as syndicate leaders, and that's it. So the execution is on them. In some cases, they actually want to ask their community, and they can do that as well. And this case is still role-based governance, but then you have this difference, and those, again, different roles, where you say, okay, for example, the syndicate lead has, I don't know, 10 votes. Syndicate managers, and we have, let's say, 10 of them, have 3 votes each, and the regular community member has 1 vote. And then we take this amount and we say, okay, let's make sure that for each opportunity, we first vote like 51%, for example. We need to reach 51% consensus in order to actually execute on this opportunity, right? So it really depends, and it's really a case-by-case thing, where this flexibility in governance we have developed helps a lot, because they can use either of those approaches. They can kind of think about their own. We can support that as well. And they are really flexible in terms of, like, which types of actions require how many votes, for example, or require voting at all. And that also helps a lot with, for example, day-to-day operations of a syndicate. So you can say, okay, in order to invest, and that's usually a significant amount of money, let's say 10, 20, 30K, then we need, for example, 70% of votes to actually execute on this transaction. But if we are talking about a day-to-day operation, so for example, we need to pay, I don't know, $50 for hosting or something like that. That's a decision that the investment manager, the syndicate manager, can make unilaterally, right? And just, like, send $50 from the treasury somewhere, and that's it. So this granularity in proposals is helping a lot, and is actually making this whole thing very flexible and very powerful.
Yeah, and I like kind of the call out there that even within syndicates themselves, how there's different governance structures that might be deployed. And kind of the thing that I particularly enjoyed is, like you said, there's different instances where maybe only 51% of the total vote is required to approve a vote, maybe it's 70%. So there's even different voting structures and governance structures within each syndicate. So I like that shout out. And specifically with the role-based voting system, kind of like what you mentioned, because I think in different DAO governance structures, it's hard to, it's sometimes hard to look at a DAO vote and to see, okay, this, you can go vote by vote, it's all on chain typically, right? But it's hard to sometimes not have every single vote be dictated by the whales in that organization.
Yeah.
So kind of like what you mentioned with roles, it's all based on what you're providing to the day-to-day operations of the organization itself versus just the assets that you're pouring into the pool. So I kind of like that differentiation of structure. It adds a lot more variety to the ongoing DAOs that we're seeing in the ecosystem. So that's actually really cool.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of DAOs do exactly like token based, and just like how the amount of tokens you hold equals the amount of votes you have, which opens this whole whale problem, and then you need to come up with different solutions to the problem that you have created in the first place, like quadratic voting and whatnot. Here, it's definitely opening much more opportunities for sort of merit-based governance, where you can exactly like assign roles and so on, but also we offer different mechanisms that allow for rewarding such members of the community who are actually active and who participate the most in, like, for example, bringing deals for the syndicate, and they can actually have sort of a contributor reward or carry fee, or however you want to see that, so they can get a share in the investment without actually investing money, right? So the community is happy because they have those people working for them, and they get rewarded based on their results, right? So it's really helping to build those result-driven organizations.
Yeah, definitely. Now, I want to circle back to something that you kind of mentioned at the start of our time together. You mentioned the different platforms that you can get involved with Unique.vc. How initially it was more of an NFT-based platform, and then you got into different asset types kind of as a platform evolved, and you specifically called out startups, which kind of leads me to my next question. When we were doing the research on Unique.vc for the purpose of this article and kind of going through the website, what are the additional options that stood out, as in addition to VC funds and syndicates, was the opportunity to become an angel investor, as it were. So if you don't mind kind of going into that a little bit, what does it take ultimately for let's just say a community member or a group of community members to go onto the Unique.vc platform and register as angel investors, and after they do so, what opportunities might be open to them if they choose to be active within that?
Yeah, so that's one of the things that we realized is important while working with our clients. So different syndicates and VCs and so on. And that was like one of the main problems they're facing is exactly sourcing the deals, right? So you really need to have some extensive network of other VCs, angels and so on, somebody who can introduce you to good startups. So we kind of looked into that, and we decided maybe there is a way to automate that, and that's how we came up with the whole idea of this deal flow bot that you have in Telegram. So that means that basically every opportunity that is on the platform can be shared, and it just depends on who can share and who wants to subscribe to those opportunities. So yeah, a founder can come in and create a club on our platform. Club, again, just the word we still use. Organization to raise funds, right? So he can describe all the nuances of the fundraise, list all the details and so on, and then send this link to different investors manually, right? So to investors that he knows. On the other hand, he can use these bot possibilities to actually share that with everybody who have subscribed to the deal flow and who matches, let's say, in terms of interest with this particular startup. So let's say if it's DeFi, only investors who particularly said that they are interested in DeFi products, they will get the information about this deal, right? Same comes to angel investors or any other group of people, essentially, who want to subscribe and use the deal flow, but they can just subscribe to it and define what are the parameters of the deals they would be interested in. So what's the check size? What's the vertical? Is there some other limitation? Do they want to get deals from founders or only from other, let's say, syndicates and so on and so on, right? So it's about creating this automated, independent, and sort of decentralized, actually, deal flow sharing mechanism that will help everybody in the market. So startup founders because they get access to a much bigger investment network. It can help angel investors because those are, in many cases, the ones left behind because they just don't have the capacity to research the projects, find them, and actually, convince the founder to give them some allocation. And for VCs, obviously, as well, because they can instantaneously share the deals that they have invested in with the rest of the network, right? So that's kind of the idea, and that's something that we have built already. Now we are slowly accumulating the critical mass, let's say, of investors that want to use it, and it's going pretty well. I don't remember the numbers exactly, but I believe we're something around 150 investors who have subscribed to this deal flow already. And again, those are, usually even when we are talking about angels, it's 10K plus check that they are willing to invest into each opportunity. And it goes all the way up to venture capital firms with 100,000, 200,000 minimum checks. So it's a pretty big network already. So yeah, next step for us is actually to release a refined process for startup founders to list their project on the platform and get access to this network.
And that's really cool. So let me clarify something real quick. So, when I hear the term angel investor, to me, when I hear that term, I usually think, more traditional space, Web 2, where, people are purchasing equity in, the different startups or the different projects that they have opportunities with. In this kind of angel investor, structure that you guys have created, is it kind of similar where users or angels are, purchasing equity in these different projects that are starting up, or could they be purchasing, seed or private tokens with a project that's trying to raise funds for like an IDO, for instance?
It's for both of those cases. So that's one of the parameters that actually everybody participating in the deal flow sharing can set up. So it depends on you, really. If you want to invest purely in equity, great, you can do that, and you will only get the notifications about opportunities that are in equity. Or you want to go purely for the token, also can do, or you can go for a mix as well, right? So whatever really is interesting for you in the first place. For us, it's mostly important that, on one hand, we provide this access to the network for everybody and for deal flow, for the deals that arise through the platform. But on the other hand, to make sure that people don't get spammed with irrelevant information, right? That's why, for example, you cannot get the list of those investors, or you cannot get the list of the projects that are actually listed on the platform. Instead, you get those automatically curated deals, right, that actually fit your investment profile. So then you, as an investor, can choose if you want to, contact this startup and go deeper with your due diligence, or you want just to skip that. So it's much less spammy and much more efficient, at least from our perspective. But yeah, we'll see how that works out. However, when it comes to angel investors in general, we do view them in a more traditional way, right? So people who actually have pretty significant capital of their own, and they're looking to invest it in different startups. Again, of course, can be equity or can be a token pre-sale or something like that.
Okay. Now maybe this happens when the platform for angel investors kind of evolves, like you mentioned previously, but with the different startups that are available, the different projects that might come out of the platform, is it exclusively Web3 projects, or is there also opportunity to invest in possible traditional business and purchase equity in more like Web2 oriented companies?
We definitely don't want to limit ourselves to Web3 companies, because we believe that Web3 is is a much more open concept than Web2 in the first place. So it doesn't make sense to take those opportunities away from both investors and founders. So it doesn't matter for us in the first place which industry those projects come from. So it can be a periodization, or even pre-web. I know if you want to list a manufacturing project on the platform and try to raise funds from investors, why not, right? For us, definitely that makes sense, because Web3 investors, or in general Web3 community, we believe can be sort of a driving power for much greater part of the economy than just like Web3. However, definitely it's much easier, much more efficient to deal with Web3 startups because, again, we can manage much more things on chain, right? As long as it's equity and, I don't know, again, manufacturing, for example, a lot of those things are going to be happening off chain. You still have to use, I don't know, traditional banks, traditional supply routes and whatnot. Here, if we are dealing with an IT startup, essentially, so somebody developing software and using a token to actually accrue value for this project, then it can be pretty much completely handled on chain, which is great in the end of the day for investors, because it automates like 90% of their life, professional life at least, right? So that, I guess, is the main difference. But in general, we are definitely looking forward to onboarding a more diverse crowd of startups and projects onto the platform in order for them to get access to those nets, because in the end of the day, the money should keep going, right? It should keep circulating in the first place, and there should be as many opportunities as possible.
Yeah, I agree. That might be something that we need to get you back on a future event for, so that when that platform is updated, we can kind of update the community on, because it's a really cool initiative. And, kind of compared to, launch pads like ChainBoost, for instance, it provides people an opportunity to get involved with projects literally right from the get-go, right? Whether it's, purchasing equity in a startup, or, getting involved at seed or private levels of a token raise, for instance, it just provides people an opportunity to get their foot in the door much sooner. So we'll probably have to have you on back here at some point to just kind of go over the updates there and explain it. In the meantime, I kind of want to switch gears a little bit. We've talked about, the updating, I should say, because it's in progress, the updating angel investor platform that you guys are creating, as well as VC fund or VCs and syndicates on the platforms. But you guys rolled out something over the last, I want to say within the last year or so, correct me if I'm wrong, kind of a more custom solutions sort of initiative where, projects can approach you and basically you end up creating the, back-end architecture for, like an investment DAO. And I believe the case study that's most prevalent on your website is Monkeventures. So I do have a couple questions there. First one primarily is, what kind of led to the decision to, have more custom solutions available for these different projects instead of kind of just having the more automated VC funds or syndicates that are already in place? And, if you don't mind, I want to, kind of hear about the results of the Monkeventures custom solution as well, and kind of dive into how that case study went for you guys.
Yeah. So actually, again, it turned out that most of, let's say, syndicates or investment DAOs, or however we want to label them, they have their own processes already in place, which in many cases are on the level of, I don't know, spreadsheets and Discord. So they do need some sort of automation, and platform like Unique definitely makes a lot of sense for them. But they have already established business processes that they don't want basically to give up. And that's why the custom solution, right? So essentially, we take our own platform and we treat it as a Lego in a way, and we kind of can add things on top of it in order to keep the process as simple and as familiar as possible for those existing communities. So that was the case with Monkeventures, for example, and some other clients who are already using, for example, Discord for their communication. And actually, they have some solutions that they are already using to whitelist people to get their Discord, right? So we ended up facing exactly that problem. Okay, they already have this group, they already have it vetted and whatnot, and now we need to somehow allow those people access to the on-chain platform. How do we do that, right? And that's where this custom solution approach kicks in, because we said, okay, actually we'll make a Discord that will allow people to just whitelist their own address if they have a certain role in Discord, right? In a particular Discord server. So we did that. That worked out great. And yeah, we fully transitioned Monkeventures from their existing process, which was exactly like Discord and spreadsheets, and now it's fully automated on chain. With Monkey, we have they have also transferred their existing pre-existing investments onto the platform. So in total, from them, we have over $1.6 million as assets under management on the platform, right? So that's a big number. Yeah, that's like over 15 investments. I believe it's 17. So yeah, that works pretty great, and that takes a lot of burden off their everyday operation life. And that's number not from Monkey, but from another client, because we've been talking about the utilization of the platform with them, and I just directly asked what's your how do you feel? How much less work are you doing now as a syndicate manager now that you have transitioned from spreadsheets to the platform? And that answer was around 90%. So it's a pretty big drop in the amount of time and effort a syndicate manager has to invest daily in order to manage this syndicate investments, pre-investment, post-investment, and so on.
Wow, so it just massively increases the level of efficiency that they're able to operate with on a day-to-day level. Okay. Now, with the custom solutions, and maybe this is something you touched on and I didn't quite hear it. Obviously, with Monkeventures specifically, if we're looking at them and the assets that are now on the Unique.vc platform, I believe it is a community fund within the DAO itself, correct? Now, with the money that is on Unique.vc, like you mentioned, 1.6 million under management, very impressive, by the way. Is that the kind of with the custom solution that you created, does it utilize Monkeventures' existing DAO structure as far as voting and proceeding with different opportunities, or does it leverage Unique.vc's kind of different governance structures because the solution is on the Unique.vc platform? How exactly does that work?
Yeah, so for them, we basically deployed their own instance of the platform, right? So we took what we have on our own Unique.vc, and we have deployed it onto Monkeventures.io. So they have their own application efficiently, and that's why this whole on-chain thing and in general non-custodial approach, why it makes sense and why it helps a lot is that we can deploy this instance of the platform. So it's kind of a SaaS approach, but we can literally just hand over the keys to all the smart contracts and the entire infrastructure. It's okay. From this point on, you manage it the way you want, right? We can help you with updates on the program. We can help you around the code if you want to change something, but it's yours, right? And we don't have anything to do with it anymore. In terms of we don't hold the server hostage, right, for your own funds. So that's how we approached them, and they really liked it because they wanted it to be separate from Unique. Okay, it's still like a collaboration between Monkey and Unique.vc, but it's their own platform, right? It's something they as a community offer to their members, and it's really important, right? Because it also creates this whole utility for the collection thing, right? And it's super important for all the projects. Everybody's trying to add as much value as possible to the collection. So here, it's not just hoodies or caps or something like that. It's like the entire investment platform that is managed by this community. So it's a great value proposition from their side, obviously, and also a great case for us, to also include that in our portfolio.
Oh, certainly. And I like the shout out there. Like you mentioned, you're not holding the tech hostage once this custom solution is deployed. Like you said, you can assist with updates, but ultimately it's a solution that is now basically owned and operated by Monkeventures. So I like the shout out there. It definitely makes it so the solution itself is just much more accessible, and it's much more approachable from a project standpoint to know, okay, if I go to Unique.vc and I ask for a custom solution to be created, at the end of the day, it's owned by me. Our community can operate it on its own kind of independently. So I do like that shout out there. Now, with the custom solutions, I think we touched on this in the article, but refresh my memory. Is it 4, 5 projects that have approached you with requests for creating custom solutions? Is it somewhere in there?
Yeah, I believe it's more now. It's closer to 10. But
wow.
yeah, in general, like, it's a process with all of them, obviously, because those are usually like bigger communities and bigger clients. But yeah, that's something that's really like, on the one hand, taking some time in order to deploy, to go through the entire process of defining this thing. But on the other hand, also helps us create a lot of expertise in-house when it comes to, like, different structures and different organizations. Because in many cases, people come and they want something. They have a very vague idea of how it should work. But now that we have launched already several it's custom solutions, and we've been working on this project for more than 2 years now, we kind of know what works and what doesn't, right? So, for example, this is the first thing we usually suggest to people. Go with the role-based governance, for example. Don't try to play around with those tokens or NFTs and so on. No, you know who is actually in charge anyway, right? Give these people power. Usually it works out great. If there is somebody new in the community who you want to promote, who is actually contributing and doing a great job, promote him, give him a different role, and that's it, right? So, and that helps a lot. That helps us to go through the negotiation process much faster. And on the other hand, we believe actually gives much more value to our customers, because again, we are not just providing the tech, we are also providing the expertise in terms of how this tech should be applied to a particular problem.
Yeah, exactly. And the more case studies, the more custom solutions that you guys deploy, obviously the more wealth of knowledge that you guys have to make those recommendations, what works, what doesn't. Kind of like what you mentioned with, recommending role-based governance, as opposed to just kind of, letting the project decide. That it shows your expertise in the field. It shows that you guys are actively studying each and every case that you guys are working on to make sure, that it's the best that it can possibly be, and to make sure that when you're talking to these different projects that you are giving the best recommendation that you possibly can. And now, I particularly liked hearing that you guys are now at about 10 custom solutions. I think when I first met with Martin and the rest of your team a few months ago, it was 5. So maybe we need to update the article now that it's 10. That's kind of cool to hear. Now, to dive a little bit deeper into a different product that you guys have created, it feels like we're kind of going, almost product by product here today, but you guys have developed a lot over the last 18 months. So it's really cool to see. One of the new products that you guys created was the Unique Delegation Manager. Now, as far as I can tell, it's a tool that obviously helps out with security and just making sure that, the different VC funds, syndicates, angel investing platforms, whatever they are, that they're much more secure, but also it gives the ability for assets to be recognized on different chains, as opposed to just Solana, which obviously the UNQ token is deployed on primarily, but also enables assets on, I believe, Ethereum and Polygon to be recognized as well. So if you don't mind, helping me out, helping out the community, kind of explain what exactly does the UDM do, and kind of how do different VC funds and syndicates leverage the UDM in their day-to-day operations?
Yeah, so with UDM, the whole idea actually came out of necessity, because that was the case with one of our early customers that actually syndicate members, a lot of them, and it was an NFT gated community. They hold their NFTs on cold wallets, right? And having something on a cold wallet, usually you do that because you don't want just to connect this wallet to each and every dApp every time that you want to interact with it. So that became a problem because a lot of people just didn't want to, and it's a lot, obviously, to ask from people to connect their wallets every time to the app when they want to, for example, vote, right? So it's something that we've been thinking about, and that's what UDM is a solution for, right? So you can create kind of this parent-child relationship between 2 wallets or multiple wallets, and say, okay, I allow this wallet, for example, some hot wallet, to represent my master wallet. And by doing that, actually, whenever you connect with this hot wallet, UDM can check which relations do you have set up within the system, and tell dApp, okay, actually don't check just holding of this wallet, but also check this address, which is the parent wallet, right? And if it has, for example, NFTs from this collection, then this wallet, like, utilize them to actually account for votes or for the access control and whatever, right? So it's much more secure for sure, because you don't need to move your assets around. You don't need to connect your cold wallet to anything except to this UDM tool, and you just do it once. So it helps with the security, it helps with the user experience, it helps with all those things, right? So that was the main goal when we created UDM. So now we are just like, fighting to get it more widely adopted, because it's a single, ideally it would be a single repository of those delegation relations between multiple wallets, right? And it's beneficial for the ecosystem, obviously, to have all users like, in one place of sorts. And that's why we released it also as an open source from the very beginning. We got it audited. So it's for sure secure to use. It's actually super small tool in terms of like, lines of code and whatnot, but it's super powerful and actually can help, make the UX of all apps on Solana in the first place much simpler. Now, when it comes to different other chains, that's a different, not let's say product, but a mechanic that we have developed and we are launching now, and that's actually cross-chain support. So we did it in a little bit of unusual way, and instead of bridging tokens from one chain to another, we created an option for our customers, whoever they are, if that's again an NFT community or a venture fund or a syndicate, to have treasuries on different chains, right? So by default, like I said, because we are on Solana, because all of our governance management mechanisms and everything else, like the biggest part of our code base is on Solana. Doesn't mean that Solana is always the best place where you'll find the project that you want to invest in. Or maybe you want to invest in a project that will be issuing their token on Ethereum, right? So how do you manage it natively? That's why we developed the cross-chain support. So you can just like, create an organization on our platform, and then within this organization, you can create a treasury on Ethereum, right? And then people can deposit funds directly into the Ethereum treasury using MetaMask, for example, right? So they already have, let's say, USDC on Ethereum, they invest on Ethereum, they get tokens back on Ethereum as well, they distribute it on Ethereum. So all the movement of funds is happening on Ethereum, but the governance itself, so for example, if we want to distribute those tokens and they are on Ethereum, and we have a voting mechanism, and we have consensus set up to 51% for the token distribution, we will vote on Solana, and we will execute this proposal from Solana, and then it goes to Ethereum, and then it distributes the token to our Ethereum wallets, right? So because obviously there are a lot of things happening on the smart contract level, on the execution level, when you're doing these things, it's still much more beneficial to have those things on Solana because it's fast, because it's much cheaper, especially like we're going to feel it again during the next bull run, right? The difference in fees between Solana and Ethereum, but your funds are there, they're safe. It's all managed from one place. You don't need to bridge any tokens. It just works, right? That was the idea.
Okay, perfect. Now, I like the concept there, and I like that, kind of what you mentioned, the governance structure and the voting process itself still takes place on Solana. And as you mentioned, much faster, much cheaper than a lot of other chains. But it's cool to know that, while that structure is being maintained on Solana, that it can help, trigger activities on, different chains, like you mentioned. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it's currently accessible with Ethereum and Polygon. Are there plans to kind of integrate more chains into the UDM so that asset managers can, essentially operate on more chains than just the 3 that are available?
Yeah, definitely. We went with Polygon and Ethereum for the beginning because we have a certain client that is actually like, coming from, I don't want to name them, but I guess it's going to be pretty obvious who they are, because they are on Solana, but they're also looking to invest on Ethereum and Polygon specifically, right? So you can guess what community that is. But definitely because we used Wormhole as a bridge, as a mechanism for message relaying to actually implement this solution. So whatever Wormhole is supporting, we can support it as well, right? And they currently have, I believe, like 15 or 16 chains that they support, so we can come with our treasury solution to any of those chains, right? It's more like a question of exactly like, particular clients that will come and say, hey, I want to have a Binance Smart Chain treasury, for example. Cool, we can do that. It's not going to take us any time, really, at this point.
Okay, so it might not be a situation where different chains are just kind of added arbitrarily, but kind of on a case-by-case basis whenever it's requested. Okay, that makes sense. Now, we're kind of getting towards the end of our time, maybe even going a little bit over time from what we initially said. So I'll kind of start to, wrap up. We talked a lot about, the different products that Unique.vc has created. Like I mentioned, it's been a lot over the course of the last 18 months with the rebrand, the different kind of clubs that you guys have created, VC funds, syndicates, being open to angel investors as well, custom solutions, UDM. It's all very exciting stuff, and it's all things that people who have that kind of eye towards, more day-to-day asset management or being more active in their particular portfolios. It's all, really interesting stuff for those people. Now, I guess specifically for more of the ChainBoost audience and more for, the people who participated in the IDO and, purchased the UNQ token. Within the different products that Unique.vc has created up until this point, if you don't mind kind of going into what role does the UNQ token play into the ecosystem right now? And, kind of how the platform evolves and how it moves forward, how will the utility of the token evolve as the platform does?
Yeah, so we're trying to take this really carefully because with all those clients, definitely we don't want to scare them, by saying, hey, here you need to use this token to access this feature or that feature. So again, we are just doing it really carefully. Right now, all of the syndicates, all of the users, all of the clubs, no matter whether they are our own platform or a custom solution or whatever, they all have access to stake UNQ tokens, right? And get rewards in UNQ tokens as well. So that's what we encourage them to do, obviously, but we just don't want to get super pushy with that in the first place. Some other places definitely is just not possible even to integrate the token itself. So for example, UDM, right? Because we want it to be free, we want it to have as much adoption as possible. It's just open source. It's out there for everybody to come and check and use it, fork, even create something on top of this protocol for themselves and so on. So there is just no place for token down there. But yeah, as we move forward, as now we are introducing different fees within the platform itself, definitely that's where token will find much more utility, right? So in the first place, we wanted to really hit this product market fit and make sure we can now sustainably onboard new clients, and that's happening right now. And then it's going to be much easier to actually introduce different aspects of monetization, different aspects of the business model, and then actually give the token some meaningful utility.
Okay, got it. So yeah, just to kind of sum up what you talked about, like you mentioned, it's more so at the current state, it was about creating, or current state up until this point, it was creating the product market fit, creating the different, avenues for people to participate, the different kind of clubs, the different products. And then once those are well established, ultimately it will be easier to incorporate the UNQ token into the different aspects of the platform. But you needed to have the architecture and the different products of the platform first before you could really start to dive in with that utility set. Exactly. Am I kind of summing it up correctly there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, perfect. Now, obviously, we talked about a lot today, and this may be an impossible question. So if it is, by all means, let me know. But from IDO back in December 2021 up until this point, if there's one development that Unique.vc has gone through, one new product, one kind of custom solution that you guys have done for somebody, different DAO governance structures, if you can name one aspect of Unique.vc's development from IDO up until this point that you would pinpoint as your favorite one. Do you have a favorite, and which one would it be?
Yeah, definitely. Like there would be two. So on one hand, it would be UDM because it's been a very interesting engineering and logical, let's say, challenge to address because we literally saw it with our own eyes, and it's been really cool to try and crack this problem, right? So that was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun, to actually integrate it and see how it works seamlessly. Like it just works. And that was amazing. So technologically, even though again it's a very simple solution in the essence, a lot of thinking went into it. And the other one that was like my favorite personally, because again I'm more on the product side, is when we first talked to Monkeventures and decided to create this custom solution for them. And the experience of working with this community was really tremendous. I mean, they're super supportive, super open guys about like everything about their issues, about what can be done better, and so on. So we literally went through the entire design journey together with them, right? Trying to identify their current problems, trying to outline their existing process, and trying to see how we can make it better by a magnitude, right? And how we can move them to be like first fully on-chain syndicate. And that's been a very, very interesting journey and very exciting. And yeah, we talked I'm super grateful to have them as peers in this in this adventure. And to the entire team, sometimes we talked when it was like 3 a.m. their time, sometimes at 6 a.m. my time, and so on and so on. So we've been just all super excited about that. And that was really, really great experience.
I can tell by just the look on your face when you talk about Monkeventures that was a really awesome experience. Obviously it's something that was, completely new to the Unique.vc team at the time, right? That was, I believe it was the first custom solution that you guys did, right? So being able to go in there and dive into the weeds of, specific B2B fits for, the different syndicates on Monkeventures. I bet that was really cool to work on. So I like the shout out there. Now we do have one community question here before we kind of start to wrap things up for the day. One of our community members, I guess they're looking at your website. They say, I really like the investing guide on the website. What other means do you use to educate and support those getting involved on either side of the VC investor relationship? So I guess just kind of talking about, the educational process. If someone's going from, square one, how do they get into Unique.vc as a platform? How do they learn how it operates? What kind of education is Unique.vc providing?
Yeah, so we have created this entire learning center for both investors and founders to basically create one place where this information is really concentrated, right? Because now you can go out and look into different aspects of the fundraise, for example, but usually that's going to be information scattered around the whole internet, right? You just need to go from one link to another, and so on, try to absorb the information. We wanted it really to be in one place. So that's why we have created this learning center to be a truly powerful platform for people to get educated about investment in the first place. But also we will incorporate obviously this material into the platform itself. And then for the founders, because we really care about their process, and it really can be tricky. So for them, we are creating not just for them. We generally are working on a new version of the UI, right? It's going to be much cleaner, much more. I don't know. I like it a lot. Really, we've spent now, I guess, around 4 months working on it. So now it's getting closer to the end. We're going to be releasing it pretty soon, and we have a separate flow for project founders that want to register on the platform and want to get exposure to different VCs. So for them, we really have a step-by-step in-app guide on what they need to fill out and how they should present this information about their project, right? Because we believe it's a little bit more than just education for them. It's really something that needs to be not standardized, but the best practices should be really visible and should be really accessible for those people, right? Because it just makes their life and investors' life so much easier if they have a framework they can follow in order to really provide all the information about themselves. So that's one of the things that we are doing, and definitely, like, Learning Center is also just beginning. Although we have already created an amazing amount of guides and information, articles and pieces for it. We are still going to be like updating it once or twice per week with new articles, new materials, new information. So we really want to make it like into the most comprehensive guide when it comes to investments out there, like across not just Web3, but also like, on the internet, essentially.
Okay, perfect. So it sounds like that education, it doesn't just span from, the day one person getting into Web3 for the first time, but also just talking to, different projects on how best to present themselves when it comes to the ecosystem itself, how best to engage with the different VCs and syndicates that are available on the platform as well. And I think that's really crucial. How a project presents itself, how it's branded, it's definitely important to, garner the interest of the people who might want to participate from those earliest stages. So, kind of having that two-headed monster there where you're providing education on both sides to the projects and to the users. It's definitely helpful, and it makes your platform much more comprehensive, and it means that it's all, all the information that projects need is essentially centralized into that one place. So,
yeah,
kind of a one-stop shop for everybody. So I like that call out. Now, before we kind of start wrapping things up, I do want to ask just kind of one question for the people who have been following Unique.vc from IDO up to this point and will continue to do so. What's next for Unique.vc? What's on the horizon? What's on you guys' roadmap moving forward from here?
Definitely the most important milestone for us right now is getting this new app design, the entire UI out there, right? So again, we have invested now 4 months into that. I believe we did a great job, and I'm really looking forward to actually releasing that, because that's going to help and make life even easier for our users, existing ones, new ones. So that's definitely our primary focus right now. And again, from the development perspective, there are some features that we are also slowly adding up. Like we are going to present again this new flow for the project founders in the new app. We're also going to introduce multiple treasuries for and multiple fundraisers for each treasury. So it's going to become possible to create much more complex financial structures within each syndicate or organization or venture fund and so on. So yeah, that's definitely our focus right now, and then we'll see. Right, we definitely are trying now to take the approach where we talk with our customers a lot, and we try to learn from them when it comes to new features, new mechanics, and so on, what they really need and what is their pain, and then try to solve that.
Okay, perfect. Now, if someone wants to keep up with Unique.vc developments, if they want to see, or if they want to be the first to see kind of the new UI that you guys are rolling out, learn more about custom solutions that are being deployed by you guys, what are the best places to learn that information? Where would you recommend people go to follow Unique.vc's developments? Would it be Twitter, Medium, your website? Kind of what's the best spot there?
Definitely Twitter, and I'd say our newsletter, right? Because we are trying to keep that, we pack all the information about everything that happened over the last couple of weeks and months and so on into the newsletter, and really provide all the information out there. So yeah, definitely follow on Twitter, subscribe to our newsletter. That's going to keep you up to speed with all the recent developments that we have.
All right, perfect. And the newsletter, is it available for enrollment on the website?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. And correct me if I'm wrong, Unique.vc is simply the name of the website too.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. Well, Alex, I really appreciate your time. I know we went over by a little bit, but there was a lot to unpack with the Unique.vc developments over the last 18 months, a lot to unpack with the new products. So I'm happy that we got the chance to talk. This is definitely something that I think that the ChainBoost audience is really going to get a kick out of. So again, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Ryan. It's been a great talk.
All right. And to all the ChainBoost audience that is out there following, like I mentioned earlier, this is the first of a new series on the ChainBoost platform, where we go in and we talk to the different projects about their IDO and about the development since. If you like this new format, if you like the Medium article that we wrote for Unique.vc, the pre-recorded interviews, leave a comment on this video, let us know, and let us know which projects you want to see next. Until next time, I'm Ryan. This has been Alex with Unique.vc. We'll see you next time. Cheers.
Bye.